I speak at too many funerals and read too many of these stories, and I just wonder what would I do if it was somebody I loved, rather than just...
The pain is indescribable.
You just, as a parent, think about that. And it is just too many guns on the streets. It's not the only problem. And, the argument, guns don't kill people, people kill people, is one of the most disingenuous things you can say. It does take a person to pull the trigger, but if they didn't have the guns... We are the only developed country in the world with this problem.
Powerful words from Mayor Michael Bloomberg this morning on the John Gambling radio show, and more powerful because he made those statements about guns before today's shooting outside the Empire State Building. He was actually talking about it when the shooting happened. Bloomberg was responding to the death of Ronald Wallace Jr. He is a 13-year-old who was shot and killed in Brooklyn early Friday morning. His mother made the cry for help this morning.
Too much violence is going on. Too many kids. He was only 13. 13. That was my baby. That was my baby. What do I do? What should I do now?
And one of the stats the mayor was referencing, the U.S. has the most guns per capita, more than any other country in the world. The 2007 Small Arms Survey estimated that there are about 88 guns for every American, and I believe that number is actually higher now. Yemen is second, running right behind us. And it certainly raises the question of whether America has a gun problem. But I want to start by asking, and if we have Michelle Malkin's quote this morning, she asked, and she made point about Bloomberg's last comments during his press conference today, noting there's an awful lot of guns out there, as you heard the mayor say. And then she asked, was that necessary? There you see her quote, the comments, was the comment necessary? And after Aurora, we heard, you got to give it time. You can't talk about this immediately after. I don't have any problem talking about guns as an issue immediately following a tragic event. Does anybody at the table have a problem with it?
No, because it was there yesterday and it's here today. I don't think you necessarily put something on the back burner because it suddenly becomes a hot button headline of the moment. I think, I'm okay. As long as you don't get too political and start pointing fingers and get silly. It's a legitimate discussion.
But also, if you wait for a day without gun violence in this country to talk about guns, that day's never going to come.
Yeah.
Because we have incidents every single day. So what do you think? Do guns become a part of the 2012 campaign? Does it start to impact this race? Do we see any action at all in Congress?
I mean, as much as I'd like them not to be an issue in the 2012 campaign, it is one of the issues in the 2012 campaign because of Colorado, because of other shootings. There's an illegal gun problem in New York. There's no question. There's an illegal gun problem in America. No question about it. I mean, I'm basically a Second Amendment guy. I'm not that strict on it, but there are a lot of guns on the street that shouldn't be on the street. I don't know if the one today was illegal or whether it was registered or not. But there's a lot of guns. And there's also a culture of fascination with guns that are making kids use them, and kids are shooting and they're not getting the result of it. The result is death. The result is that poor woman that we just heard on the radio, and that cuts right through you. And that's one of the problems that we have to address, as Republicans and Democrats alike. Yeah. We all have to talk about I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, and it is fascinating. It's a fascinating subject, actually, because you think about here in New York City, this thing happens today, and yet at the same time, we have these unbelievably strict gun laws. This speaks to the whole idea that people kill people. Is that, we have the thing, what was it, at the Empire State Building, I believe, a Marine said to the guys, can I actually? I'm carrying either concealed with me, a Marine, and boom, against the wall. Boom. The guy right now is fighting the charges, trying to say, I don't want to go to jail. I'd rather do these automatic minimums. Happened down at the World Trade Center at the 9/11 memorial. So in other words, so there you go. There's the proof of just how crazy this subject is. We have these Plaxico Burress goes away to jail for his stupid moment. We have a serving Marine fighting gun charges. And these are some strict gun laws, and it's still happening right there. So can we gun law our way into it? Apparently not.
All I can tell you is that I went into journalism to be a voice for the voiceless, to stand up for people that could not defend themselves. And I'm tired of listening to mothers. See, no offense, all I can focus on the last minute and a half, and this is a very emotional moment for me right now, because all I could focus on was that mother the pain of a mother losing a child. She said her child was 13 years old.
Yeah, unconscionable.
And, you know, like she said, what is she going to do now? And one of the first stories that I covered when I started as a journalist was in a predominantly black housing project in Brooklyn. And I'll never forget it. And I was sitting there about 6 a.m. in the morning, and the mother went to Bellevue, and I was there with the grandmother. And the mother came back and announced it was a drug shooting that had shot through the door, and she announced that her baby had died and didn't make it. And I will never forget, I had never seen someone cry and nothing come out. And the grandmother just fell on the floor, and all I could do was just leave. It has haunted me for 25 years.
Wow.
And so when I listen to that mother, all I'm saying to myself is, stop the crap, the politics on both sides. We've got to do something to get these guns off the streets.
Yeah, and I think the fact, Dominic, is that things can be done about it. You reminded me, I did some work with nonprofit housing in the late 80s and early 90s when there was real huge gun problems in the city and a lot of shootings. And today you see so many young men in their 30s in wheelchairs still from those shootings, from the drive-bys, the crack epidemic. And I remember meeting with mothers in a lot of those projects, and they were routinely putting their children in bathtubs at night to sleep. Wow. Because the bathtubs were made of lead, and they would block the stray bullets coming in at night. But something did happen. The communities got together in that instance. Communities got together, and the violence did drop a lot, and the policing changed. You can't stop it entirely, but things can happen. The attitudes can change. I
also want to point out, obviously not just exclusive to New York City, 13 people shot within a half an hour in Chicago last night, a total of 17 people shot last night.
Within a half hour?
13 people shot within a half an hour. But one of the questions, we have a lot of issues in the country right now that seem to be off limits because everybody's so polarized, and it seems like you can't get a debate started. And when guns comes up as an issue, any talk about gun control, no matter how limited, usually reverts to they're coming to take your guns. Can the country, I'm not even asking if we should now, can this country, where it is right now, have an open and honest discussion about guns? Or do you think it's just we're too polarized?
I think you're going to get even more polarized, but it's one of those things where, you know, you got to pull off the Band-Aid at some point. I think it's unavoidable. I'm talking from the hip here.
Sure.
I'm just gut here. When you talk to people that come in to take my guns, these are the law-abiding people who, under no circumstances, want the only people left with guns being criminals and the government. So I think it's inevitable that when you start talking about guns, you are going to end up having to talk once again about race. Dominic, that's where you went with this, and talking about the people that you covered and the people that you're trying to be a voice for as a journalist.
I just want to say this one thing.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Since you brought up race, because I was
I'm bringing it up in the sense that we're going to have to go there.
I'm glad that you brought it up because I'm sitting here debating whether or not I bring it up,
right.
And so I'm glad that someone else did. I just want to say this one thing, and I'm not saying that it's only African Americans and Latinos doing the shooting, but the fact of the matter is. And I say this with all due respect to somebody that grew up in the city, in the housing projects, to people of communities of color, we've got to stop this nonsense. We are doing the work of the Klan ourselves. Wow. We're doing it what the Klan originated for. We're doing it. I mean, let's be honest. People in the suburbs and so on, they don't really want to talk about it because if you talk about it, you're called a racist. But based on the stats, it's black men and Latino men firing, for the most part. I don't want to paint a broad brush, but doing the firing. And at the end of the day, we're listening on each other. And at the end of the day, we're stuck listening to women like that mother that was on Mayor Bloomberg's show that feels powerless. And her heart is broken because her baby is gone and her baby is never coming back.
How do you break that cycle? Because violence so often begets violence.
Number one, education. We've got to stop this sentiment that you can just bullcrap your way to the top and that rap music is going to take you to the top. We've got to focus on education. And it's got to be community driven. It can't be by somebody from outside the community. Leaders, alleged leaders, so-called leaders, possible leaders that are just pimping the community and have been pimping the community for years have got to start focusing on these issues.
I would actually take that a step further. I would say, now granted, white guy from the suburbs here talking, but I think everybody could see a lot of good coming if those so-called self-anointed leaders, if Jesse Jackson would take a big, giant step back out of the spot. Let's get some fresh new blood in there to talk about this, and also allow the subject of race to be spoken. Look, granted, the guy in Colorado, white guy. The guy today, I believe, white guy. So, but when you start talking about Chicago, you start talking about the Bronx, you start talking about the inner city, urban, that L.A., South Central, that's it.
Couldn't you also make the argument that in a vein similar to what you were talking about in the black community, some movement from the leadership of the NRA, having the NRA being more open to talking about options and ways to solve the problem?
As long as they're not vilified and referred to as clannish from the get-go by the left. As long as they're not demonized.
You mean well, but this discussion is never going to happen. The NRA is never going to budge an ounce. I understand their point of view, but there's never going to be any compromise on this issue, ever. So we need to stop playing this game and figure a way around the NRA if that's possible at all.
It's a little bit. I mean, when you look at the public service unions, a lot of people say the public service unions, including me, push spending too far. They push pension plans too far. The rest of it, that's their job to do that. It's their NRA's job to take the argument in favor of as much freedom as possible on guns out as far as it can go. That's their job. I mean, that's the job of these advocacy groups, but the rest of us could maybe at some point have a conversation and come to some reasonable agreement.
I hope so. It is long overdue, and Dominic, you're absolutely right. The sound bites that we hear from mothers, that we hear too often, we're going to take a quick break, but we want to get this part of the conversation to you at home. We want you to participate. Head to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Richard French Live. Our question tonight, does America have a gun problem? Obviously, a very broad question there. Any angle on this that you'd like to talk about, we certainly want to hear your comments. You can also tweet them to us, and we'll include them coming up in a future broadcast. When we come back, we're going to shift gears to politics. Mitt Romney made a birther joke today. Is that too below the belt for him, or is all fair in love, war, and politics? And just how big are the stakes for Mitt Romney going into the Republican convention next week? America Votes is next. Stay with us.